Hello, Matt here from Fitter Confident You. I'm laughing because I just fluffed up my words beforehand. Back with another lovely chat with a Fitter Confident Unicorn. We've got Scott Rodenhizer here today. He was a few years ago. I should have looked this up. Maybe 2018, the first time we worked together.
Yeah, prior to pandemic.
Was PP, prior pandemic. Scott, lovely to have you along. How are you doing today?
Good, very well. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Oh, and where in the world are you? Don't worry, we don't need a zip code.
I am I'm about 30 minutes north of Seattle, Washington in the US. So
rain or snow today? What have you got?
It is overcast, but we snowed last night, which was shocking because people can't drive here in the snow. So I was like, oh, please let it go away. So it gets crazy.
Well, look, thanks for making time for this. And as with the other ones, it's just a lovely chat because sometimes like the journey and the experience can seem, if someone isn't doing any fitness at the moment, like it can, and I'm like, come and join fitness. And I can say it's fun and inclusive and easy to start, but that can still seem like an alien concept. So speaking to the actual people who've been there can be really powerful. So just to rewind, before we were working together, what were you doing? What was your relationship with fitness? What sort of was going on in your world?
So prior to my working with you, I was always kind of I always saw myself as kind of the funny fat guy. Like that was, and I wasn't like extremely on a TV program heavy, but I was always pretty heavy. And so I just was like, oh, that's who I am. And I'd done CrossFit about 9 years prior to working with you and was quite successful. And then I worked night shift, gained it all back, all the way I'd lost and completely deconditioned myself. So like things that I could do before was completely gone. Like I'd pull up, etc. And then before I started up with you, I joined at a traditional, or as in CrossFit they call it, like a Globo gym, a normal gym, and which was really out of my comfort zone. But I did that, and then they have like kind of group fitness classes, which I did that a little, but I was trying not to because I was like, it didn't work before, I'm gonna try something different. That was my idea. Was like, obviously I very much have a silver bullet mentality where I'm like, I need to find what works, and if it doesn't work, it has to be something new. Like I'm obviously doing something wrong, not just consistency, which it's generally consistency. I should stick with something. But yeah, that was. And so then when I came to you, I was kind of looking at this new environment that I really hadn't spent a whole lot of time in, and it was kind of like, okay, where do I begin? Where do I start?
Yes. And so that was when our paths crossed, and we worked through a program together, and you did very well. And like you took to like that new environment. You started going more regularly. What was enjoyable about doing it differently?
Enjoyable is always a really strong word for me. I'm not one who runs, and I think this is honest because I've never been one who runs toward fitness and it's like, oh, I found my calling, or this is all I've ever wanted. Nope, that's not me. I'd much rather be sleeping or eating or playing video games or whatever. But I mean, as far and that's the other thing is I've never had an issue with mobility. Like I've always moved well. I'm a yoga teacher, and before I worked with you, I was a yoga instructor before, so that was never my problem. I just was heavier so the confident part was the struggle for me, right? Like I was very, very unconfident in my own skin. So I don't even know if that's the word, unconfident. Inconfident, I'm not sure.
I like it.
Not very, whatever. But as I started finding movements that were familiar, so like to this day, enjoy is a strong word, but I prefer a shoulder press, like a strict press. Give me a strict press in a workout, I will do it. I will default it over other things. Like if I see a military press, seated military press, I will try to figure out how to get a strict press. So things like that are familiar, I like. And so I will go back to it because it feels kind of comfortable. Yeah.
Understood. And as soon as I said it, I remembered, oh yes, but Scott and I have talked a lot about maybe if you just keep looking for different exercises and moves, you'll find something you do enjoy. And like this was a journey for me to realize not everyone has to like fitness as much as I do. And it's absolutely okay for however much whoever's watching this, however much on the spectrum of 0 to me, you like fitness, that's okay. It's about finding your groove, which you've really done more and more and more. And like you said, you know what works for you, you know what you enjoy. And that actually working with you did help me stop trying to push this agenda that everyone everyone has to adore fitness as much as I do. I'm so glad I have dropped that, because there are so many different ways to approach it.
Well, and I'd read somewhere, heard somewhere that you know, it's someone had given me basically the pass to say you you either suffer now or you suffer later, right? You either suffer when you're 70, or you suffer now, suffer, and I'm going to use suffer because it's a strong word. It's not really, but you're just inconvenienced, I think, is more of an idea, right? Because it's not what we'd want to do with our time until you realize it becomes your habit or your routine, and then you're like, it's less of a thought. It's like, nope, I just go to the gym. I just go to the gym on Mondays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, and those are my normal days, and that's when I go, you know, or whatever your cycle is. And it becomes very, you know, or it may even be I just go for a walk, you know, to make sure I get my steps in. Okay, great. So, and then it becomes less of a, oh, it's something I have to do, and it's just something that I do.
That is so spot on. Like, the more you can habituate it, the more it just sort of beds into who you are, and it just slots in. But that links to what you said earlier, when you were looking for a silver bullet. And I've been in the past, before I was doing this, but like when I was getting into fitness, I was convinced there was a secret that everyone in the world knew apart from me,
Exactly,
that would unlock my fitness progress. But as you said, it's consistency. That's the boring silver bullet out there. You've just got to find your version of consistency.
And it takes more time than you think it is.
Yeah.
We see all these transformations online. They're like, oh, look what I did in 3 months. But nobody told you that they were pretty fit beforehand, or they came from a background where they did sports, or were very active in their younger years. And so for them to become conditioned again, it didn't take as strong or as much effort compared to someone like me who was never athletic at all. Like I didn't even see myself as athletic. I think it was you who actually said, no, Scott, you're athletic. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, no, now you are. And I was like, no. So for me, that was a big journey. It was like, oh no, people look at me and see someone now who is athletic or who's active. And that was a really hard mind flip for me.
I was going to say, do you believe that now?
Yes, I believe that I'm more active than a majority of the population of the US, for sure. And it's just, it's funny. Like, I'll go out with friends or I'll go out dancing or whatever, friends, and the amount attention I get is completely different than I did previous to me being active and fit. And I think, yes, part of it's my physical form, but I think part of it's also my confidence and just me being me, and me being like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's very, very interesting.
But it is, and I always say that about confidence, that it isn't like a small part of it is how you look, but 95% of it is just how you present yourself to the world, in terms of head up, shoulders back, and just exuding just a bit more naturalness. Just you being feeling like you're if you come across that you're comfortable, it's really hot. It's really like, oh, he knows himself. He knows who he is. And it's not about looking a certain way or being a certain weight or any of that nonsense. It's just about being comfortable in your own skin, and however that feels and looks to you. That's it. And so now, but you just before we started recording, but so you're working out 4 times a week plus a little extra. Is that right? What's your schedule? Schedule at the moment?
So right now I do 4 traditional bodybuilding style, which I always have a hard time wrapping my head around that because I feel like such a jerk. But it just, because I was so us versus them when I started. It's so natural, so human nature for us to be like, that's them and this is me, and that's how I didn't realize I was like that until, like, I used to think the weight room was like this foreign land where I wasn't allowed in, and it was like Agrabah or something, and I just tried not to go there as much as possible. And now I'm there all the time. But yeah, so 4 days of traditional body styling, a push pull legs upper day, and then I have a day with my PT, which generally I bench press with him, because left to my own devices I'll never bench press. I hate it. And so he'll do it with me and do upper, which is fine. And then sometimes I'll throw in like an extra CrossFit-esque style class. Or I was taking a handstand class in Seattle, which is a bit of a drive for me, but it was amazing and it's so good, and I'm still working on my handstand. It just takes time. But it's super fun. It's actually, if I was going to say I enjoyed some sort of fitness, it would probably be the most thing I enjoyed, because it comes closer. I know, right? It comes closer to a performance kind of thing. And I was a theater kid, so it feels very familiar.
But okay, I knew it. B, that is so brilliant that you tapped into something else you love and sort of connected like a Venn diagram, the best of both worlds of a bit of showmanship and treading the boards, but with your hands and walking on your hands. That's amazing. How is the handstand walking going? Like,
well, it's just straight, just a straight push handstand, like up, like pike. Basically, you push from the ground kind of that way, and it's amazing because it's very different. Like in CrossFit, it's kind of sloppy is the wrong word, but it's more loose. It's more loose, right? Like you can let your legs flop and you can walk with it. And this is really just kind of that push calisthenics handstand. We were pushing for the ground, and I'm working on it. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer every day where I can hold a little bit more, and it's great. And we do handstands in yoga. I just have never been there, but I'm much closer than I was. Just like I never, until the last year, I've never been able to get crow pose in yoga, and I finally am much closer, like can hold it for a little bit. So it's exciting to see my progress. Yeah.
That is what you just said. Exciting to see my progress. That's brilliant for motivation, because it means you're like, oh, maybe I can do it. And that spark of, oh, I'll just keep trying is all it takes. You might have just answered a question. So I gave Scott a couple of questions we were going to talk about, but one I've just thought of that I thought would be really nice, but he's kind of just answered it. What do you have a tip for someone watching this who maybe does feel a bit removed from the idea of fitness or getting into it? Like, what would be your best advice to help them out?
I would say just go and find something that you can dig into or sink your teeth into initially. So whatever calls to you, and don't get hung up on what's optimal or what is the best split or people say, oh, you should just do cardio. Whatever, just get yourself moving. Maybe it's yoga, which is not optimal for weight loss, to be honest. It's not, but it's amazing entry point for someone who's probably never been active before, right? Or been less active, or maybe can't even squat, and you're just like a normal air squat, and so you're just working to get there, and then celebrating those small victories along the way, and then you can progress to things that are maybe more advanced. And I think that was the growth for me, was realizing, okay, yoga's fantastic. I love it. I love strong word. I really enjoy it. I think I enjoy what it gives people, but I realized that if I wanted to look a certain way, or I wanted my body to look a certain way, I needed to do other things that would bring me there, which took me outside the realm of yoga, which is fine because I still love yoga. It just it meant that I needed to do more traditional bodybuilding style workouts.
Gotcha. That is so brilliantly put about celebrating the small wins and the steps along the way. It's what I preach, but you espouse it too, and that's so brilliant. Amazing. Look, Scott, I won't keep you any longer. It's 8:15 or 8:30 in the morning for him, so he very kindly jumped on this, and I do appreciate it. But look, lovely to catch up, and thank you for just the lovely words of wisdom. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Amazing.